Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. We're going to start out tonight with Al Molinaro, who died recently at the age of 96, nice Italian boy from Kenosha, and he's famous for 2 television roles. He was in an acting class with Penny Marshall. Penny Marshall turned him on to her brother, Gary. Gary made him the hapless cop, Murray Greshler, in the TV version of The Odd Couple with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. Here he is in court with Oscar.
Oh, Officer Murray, did you lock up any orphans today?
I'm sorry, Oscar, but you got out of hand. I'm no toy cop anymore.
He did great double takes and could play a scene for its comic value. Here he is playing chess with Felix.
Felix, am I the black or the white? I'm a whiz at casino and go fish. Don't leave, you're getting hot, Murray. I gotta go. Gotta find my badge. I left it someplace. Oh, hi, Oscar.
Hi, Murray. I found a badge in a hole.
Thanks. Another job well done by your man in blue. Hey, this isn't my badge. Some dumb cop lost his badge.
Well, I thought that was his best role, but most people know him better as Big Al Del Vecchio from Happy Days. He owned the malt shop where Richie and Fonz used to hang out. Actually, he took it over from Pat Morita. It was originally Arnold's. I thought Pat Morita was a very funny guy also. But he left, and here's Al Molinaro as Al Del Vecchio doing one of his catchphrases from Happy Days.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about Rosa Coletti?
And he was the spokesman for Encore Lasagna.
Well, have you made an executive decision yet?
Oh, of course. Al, this Encore lasagna is delicious. I love the way it's made. So rich, so meaty. I'm going to take some home.
Wait, didn't I tell you that Encore is a 2-pound family-size entree?
Right.
Is that too much food for one person?
Right.
Then don't you need a family like mine to help you eat it all?
Wrong.
For tasting more, it's Encore. I love this stuff.
Al Molinaro's other claim to fame is he is the person who recommended Robin Williams to Gary Marshall to play Mork on Mork and Mindy. As I said, he was always a funny guy, and personally, I'm going to miss Murray Greshler, the cop. We're going to move on now to Mel Daniels, who died recently at the age of 71, one of the great players in ABA history. If he'd come along a little later or a little earlier, he'd have been an NBA star, but he came along right at the right time for the ABA. We talked about the ABA when we did the Marvin Barnes podcast. Mel Daniels was the mainstay of the Indiana Pacers in the ABA. He's a great power forward, made the Hall of Fame in 2012, and here's NBA.com featuring Julius Erving and Larry Bird talking about the legendary Mel Daniels.
Indianapolis, Indiana, capital city of a state where basketball is the game.
It was the 1970s in the heartland, and fans flocked to the Indiana State Fairgrounds Coliseum to catch a glimpse of their Pacers and one of the main attractions of the American Basketball Association, Mel Daniels.
I grew up a Pacer fan by watching Mel Daniels, so that's really my first look at professional basketball.
It was hard to miss Daniels out on the court. He was an intimidating physical presence who made a lasting impression on fans and opponents alike.
Mel Daniels will break your fingers if you shake his hand. If you walk in the room right now, I wouldn't shake his hand. So it's just like, hey man, little dap, little wave, whatever. Good to see you.
Daniels was drafted by the Minnesota Muskies in 1967, before the ABA's inaugural season. He earned the league's first Rookie of the Year award, and soon, another team began to covet his talents.
Part of a postseason trade with the Indiana Pacers, Daniels should definitely help Coach Bob Leonard move last season's third-place club into championship contention.
Daniels did just that, elevating Indiana to one of the elite teams in the league.
Mel Daniels rebounds, and he stuffs it.
He would become the leading rebounder in ABA history, controlling the paint with his trademark intensity.
I think he was the first guy I heard growling on the basketball court. He grabbed rebounds and be, block a shot, score a basket,
It wasn't long before Daniels led the Pacers to the ABA mountaintop, a championship in 1970, and then twice more in 1972 and 73.
He was the mainstay that anchored the 3 championships for the Indiana Pacers.
The Pacers are the ABA champions for the second straight year.
Daniels won 2 League Most Valuable Player awards, made 7 All-Star appearances, and carved his own spot in the rich tradition of Indiana basketball.
Mel was the hero. He was a guy who you could count on. I think the consistency of his performances night in and night out made the Pacers the ABA's most successful franchise in its 9-year history.
We're going to move on now to our feature tonight, Maureen O'Hara, who died at age 95. Maureen O'Hara is one of the last great actresses of the film era. right before, right during, and after World War II, and one of the most beautiful women ever to be on film. They called her the Queen of Technicolor because of her fiery red hair, her beautiful green eyes, and her gorgeous complexion, which played especially well when she played in an Irish film filmed in Ireland against all the green there. I'm going to start out by playing snips from 5 of her most memorable films. She was essentially discovered by Charles Laughton, and she played Esmeralda in his version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which, by the way, is one of the greatest movies ever made. She didn't have to do a lot of acting there, but you could tell even in black and white, she was gorgeous. Her interplay with Laughton's Quasimodo, and Quasimodo is one of the great characters in movie history, is absolutely superb.
Why did you save me?
You asked me why I saved you. I tried to carry you off, and the next day you gave me a drink of water and a little pity. Listen, you must never leave the church. Oh, they'll have you. That'll kill me.
Probably the greatest movie she was ever in was the 1941 How Green Was My Valley with Walter Pidgeon. It's the movie that introduced Roddy McDowall worldwide. This movie won the Academy Award for Best Picture over Citizen Kane. Let you know how good it was.
You shouldn't be here.
I couldn't spend another night without knowing. What has happened? Is anything wrong?
Wrong?
You know what I mean. Why have you changed towards me? Why am I a stranger now? Have I done anything?
No, blame is mine. Your mother spoke to me after chapel. She's happy to think you'll be having plenty all your days.
Yes, Evans.
You could do no better.
I don't want him. I want you.
Gotta play a little from my IT genius Sid's favorite movie of hers, Miracle on 34th Street, where she's Natalie Wood's mother, and she argues with Edmund Gwynn whether there's a Santa Claus or not.
Would you please tell her that you're not really Santa Claus? That there actually is no such person?
Well, I'm sorry to disagree with you, Mrs. Walker, but not only is there such a person, but here I am to prove it.
If younger viewers know her at all, they know her from The Parent Trap as Haley Mills' mother and Brian Keith's wife.
Of course, you know what husbands think about ex-wives. Like an old, comfortable, worn-out shoe cast in the closet. Well, off with the old and on with the new, eh?
And unquestionably her greatest role, opposite John Wayne in John Ford's The Quiet Man. She stood up to John Wayne in the movies probably better than any other actress. Ford filmed a lot of this one near my Starbucks friend Damon's hometown in County Galway.
So old one you are. But who gave you leave to be kissing me?
So you can talk.
Yes, I can, I will, and I do. That's more than talk you'll be getting if you step a step closer to me.
Don't worry, you got a wallop.
Maureen O'Hara was a nice Irish colleen born outside Dublin. Here she talks about her childhood.
Well, I was born in Ranelagh and grew up in Ranelagh and Milltown. And I went to school in the village of Milltown and loved it and had a wonderful time. And the nuns were wonderful. And sometimes they'd get cross and cranky with us and give us the devil. And the devil didn't like us, so he'd go away. We were tough kids.
And here she talks about her mentor, Charles Laughton.
Charles Laughton signed me to my first contract to do with movies. What more can somebody do for you than start you off in life? I'd had wonderful teachings. I was taught all the dramatic art I needed. I was taught to act. I was taught to appreciate what I was being taught. And it was Charles Laughton. I was the first teacher I had in the theatrical profession. You couldn't meet anybody more wonderful to work for than Charles Laughton.
Here's the BBC4 Last Word with Matthew Bannister on Maureen O'Hara.
The Irish-born star appeared opposite John Wayne in 5 of his pictures, including Rio Grande and The Quiet Man. Maureen was often cast as a strong woman with a hint of vulnerability, holding her own against Tyrone Power and Errol Flynn. She was born Maureen FitzSimons at Milltown near Dublin. Maureen's acting career began at the Abbey Theatre in Dublin, as her biographer Johnny Nicoletti recalls.
When she was at the Abbey Theatre, she had been encouraged to do a screen test rather than accept her first starring role with the theatre at Elstree Studios in London. They agreed to take the screen test. That was seen by Charles Laughton, and it was all in preparation, of course, for her second feature, which he had already cast her in, which was Jamaica Inn, directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
Mary! Please don't scream like that. I shall have to put this handkerchief in your mouth.
After Jamaica Inn was filmed, she and Laughton came to America to shoot The Hunchback of Notre Dame. She was, of course, Esmeralda, and while they were here filming, World War II broke out. Laughton owned Mayflower Pictures, where Maureen had her contract, sold her contract to RKO Studios, fearing that her career would be stalled by the war. And that is how she became a Hollywood star and became part of the Hollywood studio system. Her breakthrough movie really was The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but I would say that the film that really launched her was the John Ford classic, How Green Was My Valley.
Maureen O'Hara as Anne Howard, the Welsh girl whose beauty set songs swelling in men's throats.
That partnership with John Ford, of course, brought her into contact with John Wayne.
That's right, and it was while they were filming How Green Was My Valley. Maureen began going to John Ford's home for these wonderful dinners that the John Ford Stock Company would always participate in. And there, all of the gang would get together and eat great food and sing great songs, and many of them were Irish songs. And John Wayne, as part of that company, was there. And that is how he and Maureen became friends socially. Over time, they began to talk about working together, and it was, of course, The Quiet Man that they picked as a feature that they would work together.
You always felt that Wayne couldn't dominate me, and you felt that whatever they did in their life, it was something that they would work out together as the two people in the script.
I believe that when you knew her, she took you on a tour of the locations of The Quiet Man. What was that like?
Oh, it was magical. She drove, and we just went from every little location and village and township where they had filmed all the scenes from The Quiet Man. And there's quite a cottage industry around the film. It's so beloved there.
I'll be going on home now. I'll have the supper ready for you.
And imagine the delight of people when we pulled up and there she was getting out of the car with a scarf and some sunglasses, and people couldn't believe it.
And she had such striking looks, didn't she?
Yes, she really did. And in black and white, her eyes photographed so beautifully that they called her the girl with black cherry eyes.
You talked about how striking she was in black and white. How much more striking she was when she went into Technicolor.
She was the Queen of Technicolor.
And what did that mean? What, was that just about the colour of her hair, which was red, or did it mean more than that?
It meant more than that. It was certainly her sea green eyes and her peaches and cream complexion photographed beautifully. They hadn't perfected the technology, and so there were many leading ladies who were reluctant at the time to be photographed in it because it wasn't a tried and true technology. When they saw Maureen O'Hara, her image captured so beautifully by Technicolor, it began to ease the concerns of the industry and other actresses who were then willing to be photographed. They thought if Maureen O'Hara can look that magnificent, then it's got to be okay. That she was very proud of her overall filmography.
Come back to Erin, Mavourneen.
She was classy, she was funny, she was incredibly witty and tough, and so very, very proudly Irish.
Come with the shamrocks and springtime, Mavourneen, and its Killarney shall ring with a mirth.
Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Taps. Well, Maureen O'Hara was not only a good actress, but she was a great athlete. And as you could tell there, she was a wonderful soprano. So we're going to close tonight with her singing a classic, Londonderry Air, or as it's better known, Oh Danny Boy.
So now I would like to present the beautiful Maureen O'Hara with that red hair and that feisty Irish personality.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen, all down the mountainside. The summer's gone and roses falling. Alas, 'tis you must go, and I must bide.